First, we're just going to start by looking at the video. So here's the video.
You did Ivy. I did regular. You know, you want an Ivy League with those Ivy League kids and everything. When you came home, I was like, who is he? Hold up, wait a minute now. You know, you're very intelligent.
Okay.
You know, you really are. And so within it, you know, your words go a long way. Mm-hmm. I don't have the ability to give you your words like you give them to me. Mm-hmm. I don't have and possess the ability to say everything I want to say and it be cohesive. Mm-hmm. I don't. You know, she said, because you're my only child and I love you like I love you.
I love you too. Why are you looking like that?
Never mind. I can't even finish my sentence.
Please. All I said was I love you too.
Okay, but you could have said that after I got my thought out. Mm. We speak in two different languages. For me, as a mother, a single mother.
Because I went to an Ivy League school and have intellectual thoughts that come out of my mouth doesn't make what I'm saying mean.
That's your opinion. And I respect it.
Okay, so let's dive in. Any reactions first to that? You know, we could just dive into the questions.
Well, no. Okay. I'm okay.
He looks exhausted in trying to communicate with someone who lacks the ability to see themselves and humble themselves. Her push to raise him and get him to and through an Ivy League school is what keeps her from being able to relate to him, not his grasp of vocabulary. Mama is fighting the same trauma of feeling inferior in general.
No, I don't feel inferior. I beg to differ on that. I don't feel inferior. All I'm simply saying is that, you know, Dakota, you're 30 years younger than me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pull the words out like you do. I don't have I'm not that quick. Mm-hmm. I used to be at one time, but I'm no longer that quick.
Mm-hmm.
And,
do you think it's the quickness, or do you think it's just because you articulate yourself very well, like you just did now, explaining yourself? So what do you think is the crux of this issue?
You know, I think with you, I feel somewhat not intimidated, because I'm not ever intimidated by you, never. I feel like sometimes your words can be daunting.
What does that mean?
And what I'm saying to you is this right here. You like the way you come at me with them, boom, 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 boom. You know, it's like a hammer. You won't let it go. You won't. And see, that's, for me personally, that's a problem for me.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying it's the way that I'm communicating with you. So I guess that's the part where I get a little confused about the Ivy League part, and it's the words and the quickness of the words. You're saying you can come up with the words quick, but then you're changing it to like, it's how aggressive I am with the words I'm saying.
You're definitely aggressive with your words, Dakota. You are.
But I'm just trying to go back to what you said in the video where you're...
Okay. Go ahead. What was I saying?
Well, when we just listened to it, you were saying that, you know, you understand that and maybe come into the camera so people can see you, that you were saying that you understand that I went off to the school and learned all this stuff, but you think that I use my words against you.
I think you tried to at times. I do. You know, I think you go above and beyond them, and you talk really, really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you speaking that fast, and I'm not used to trying to grasp it that fast, you know, and digest it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a challenge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because you speak very, very fast. And, you know, this isn't my first time telling you that. I've always told you, I said, Dakota, slow your words down, words down.
But what you were saying here, and it seems like some of the reaction is like that somehow I'm using vocabulary that is off base, that you don't understand the vocabulary that I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying I understand all the vocabulary you're saying. Some of these words are new to you too. You didn't know these words until you got on the internet with your friends.
Well, it's that I have emotional language to talk about because I've also done a lot of therapy.
Okay, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And whereas I have not, I'm not on that same spectrum with you. I'm in therapy currently, but to have therapy, how many years did you do therapy?
5.
No, I didn't do it 5 years yet.
Okay, let's go to the next one. It's all about perception. It's not your fault you're more academically inclined and than those you're around. To lessen yourself to meet them at their level will be redundant.
No, I don't think that's true. I'm not saying you should lessen yourself. I'm not going to ever tell you to lessen yourself. However, there's words that you can choose that we can all be on the same level.
Yeah, I guess where I get confused because it seems sometimes like the way you kind of construct arguments, it kind of goes in a circle. So it's like, hey, it's your words. Then it's like, hey, you're so aggressive. Then it's like, hey, you're speaking so fast.
It's all that.
And I feel like what kind of happens when we're talking too, you kind of like, it just shifts. It's like, oh, I don't understand what you're saying. Then I explain that. Then you're like, well, it's something else. It's something else. Something else.
Well, Dakota, it's a combination. It's not just one thing. It's a combination. It is.
Sorry?
Go ahead.
This next one is, it depends on if she means in factual debates or an emotional conversation. Because I can understand not punching down on her lack of knowledge, but to me, a large part of therapy is to grow your emotional dictionary so that you can express yourself more coherently. Any thoughts on that one?
Say it again.
You may want to come into the camera more, just like kind of, it depends if she means in factual debates or in emotional conversation, because I can understand not punching down on her lack of knowledge, but to me, a large part of therapy is to grow your emotional dictionary so that you can express yourself cohesively.
Okay, so let me say this to you. You've been in therapy for 5 years. I haven't.
So I think what they're saying here is is it a factual conversation that we're talking about this and you're saying that this is happening, or is this an emotional conversation?
Both.
Okay, let's go to the next one. I've been so excited for young people to be able to speak truths that we cannot articulate and make space where we were pushed out. You were so close to grasping what generations have dreamt of. We could not know how we feel like what we built and struggled for can feel like it's leaving us behind. It's just being human.
What are your thoughts?
I think what this person is saying is that she's excited that there's a younger generation of people who are speaking up about the way that they feel and about the way that like family dynamics and social dynamics impact the way they feel.
And you know what? I understand that. I understand that. And, you know, for the longest, you know, like my generation, you know, us speaking up and saying what we feel is not something that we were able to do. Not like you all do. It's not the same. It wasn't the same.
I think the implication this person is making is that you should be happy about that expressiveness versus.
Well, I don't mind the expressiveness, but it's when you have expressiveness with disrespect.
What does that look like to you? What does that mean?
You know, for me personally, what it means is that, you know, I'm all for you speaking up and having a voice. I am. But when you're over talking me, and then you won't let me get a word in edgewise, and you do that quite a bit, Dakota.
I don't think that doesn't happen. But okay.
Okay. All right. That's your opinion.
Okay.
So with that being said, you know, and then it's like it's always it's always like a tussle between you and I. Always, always, always. You know, I don't care what I say. You're going to say something else. You know, I don't care how I feel or what I feel about something. Oh, you're going to show me why it's wrong and why I shouldn't feel that way. I don't care what I say.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think that you take me disagreeing with what you have to say, especially about things like, oh, you should be respectful in this way or that way. You may want to like make sure you look at the camera. Sorry. I think that what happens. I think what happens is that you take me disagreeing with you, and you are framing it as like, well, you're being forceful with me, you're disrespecting me, you're all these things with me, you just have to be right. But if you say something to me that I thoroughly dislike, for example, I think you would probably describe some of our conversations, for example, about my coming out, where I'm passionately saying to you, yeah, that was wrong and you should really fix it. Like I remember sitting down at the table and me saying, you should call my brother because this was a really bad situation. It happened on your watch as a parent. You should fix it. And you're saying, no, I shouldn't. I'm like, well, yes, you should. And so you're right. In moments where we're having those kind of dialogues, I certainly assert what I believe to be the case emotionally, right? And I think a lot of times in those kind of dialogues, that's where you start to say, well, your mouth, your disrespect, your all of these things.
No, that's not it. But that's a piece of it. And to come and be very honest with you, I didn't know until like within the past year or two that you were angry about being outed by your brother. That wasn't a conversation you and I ever sat down and had. And then to say that because it happened on my watch, I should fix it. And I'm like, okay, but you're an adult now. And I felt like that's your brother. You should be able to go to your brother and say to him what it is you choose to say.
Yeah.
And I don't think that me butting in or me saying, "Oh, Raja, I didn't want to step into that because you were grown by now. You're grown, and didn't nobody know what the problem was."
Yeah. Well, I just struggle with the idea that nobody knew what the problem was when, like, I was a child. This computer was turned around. I was outed to a table of people. And it was framed in a way that was so negative. So I guess what I struggle with a little bit is like why that is not clearly something that traumatizes someone to you and why you didn't feel that as my mom, that was something that you should go back and correct because in that moment, you did not do, in my opinion, the things that a mother should have done.
Okay. I received that. But you know what else you need to receive, Dakota? You need to receive the fact that I had never been in that position before.
Yeah, I think this is the cycle where you kind of make it about yourself again.
No, it's not about a cycle, Dakota. You keep going back to being outed. You keep going back there and back there and back there. And every time we go back there, we come to the same resolution. The resolution being that I was just walking in the door from work. I wasn't prepared for that. I was not. And within that being said, Dakota, I don't know what else you expect from me. I didn't know that it was that traumatizing to you. I didn't know that. I didn't know because I was still trying to wrap my brain around it. And so you're over here as a child, and I'm over here as a single parent, thinking to myself, was it something I did?
Do you see how you're still, even when I've since brought it to your attention, doing the cycle of like victimization, where it's like me, I felt.
Dakota, all I'm simply saying to you is this right here. Every time we go down that rabbit hole about you being outed, I have to still take the same stance. And that stance being, okay, I apologize that happened to you. I didn't know until a couple of years ago that this has been something that has been eating at you all these years. I had no idea. And so for that, I apologize because I had no idea.
Do you see how that can be minimizing to someone the way you're framing that?
I guess for me, Dakota, I guess for me personally, because I see that where you and I are at within this, it's at a place where I don't know that you'll understand me completely. I understand you. I get it. I understand you completely. I was your mother. I should have been there for you, I understand all that. I do. And the only thing I'm saying to you is that you were my first child. I had never experienced anything like that before. So within it, I didn't know how to respond.
And can you understand from my perspective that I understand in that moment you didn't know how to respond, but when I started bringing this up to you, even if it was recent, let's call it, how you saying, yes, I apologize about that happening, but constantly circling back to you and how you felt in the moment. And from my perspective, that victimization of yourself when I was the victim in that moment as a child minimizes my experience and makes it hard to get to resolution. That's what I think is a lot of this cycle. Because remember, we kind of just started talking about this as an example in a broader Q&A about video that we did. So I think what I'm saying is that accountability is an interesting kind of question, because I think somebody can say I'm sorry, but if they say I'm sorry and are constantly doubling, and whenever that situation comes up, don't sit in sorry, but instead, just say, yeah, I'm so sorry about that. But instead go make the circle back to how they felt. It's, kind of them, you as the person who were wronged in that situation by whomever, in my opinion, adults in the room, broadly speaking, that minimizes that experience. And that's when we get into the cycle of, I imagine this is where you probably start to say, well, I think you're being disrespectful, because these are cycles that I refuse to really, these are beliefs in the way, this is a way I feel that I refuse to back away from. And I think that for me, that's like holding you to account, or like you being apologetic moves the ball forward, but doubling back on that apologeticness with, in my opinion, kind of, minimizing the experience and the accountability, kind of creates a problem. It's food for thought and something we can talk about at another time. But I'm saying that's kind of what that cycle looks like for me. Not that I don't accept that you're sorry, not that I understand that you were a single parent and that parenting doesn't come with a handbook and all those things. I think all of those things are true. I just don't like when we're discussing, when these things come up, that's the place we go back to versus just, yeah, I get what you're saying, I apologize about that, and we just kind of move forward.
Is that not what I do?
Well, that's not what you just did here. As an example, I kind of we were talking about times where this idea of disrespectful conversation comes up, and I said, well, it's when we're talking about sensitive things. Like, for example, when we've spoken about this, and then we kind of start going down, and I talk about specifics, like what specifically where the disrespectful conversation from your perspective came up and why from my perspective it wasn't, and it's gone into this longer dialogue about how, why I didn't have the playbook.
Okay, so let me say this, Dakota. We've been on this journey now for some time.
What journey?
The journey of, you being outed and how you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And, I would love to try, if I could go back and change anything, that would be a time that I would change.
Mm-hmm.
Because more than anything, reliving it day after day after day, and I can't change it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I try to move on gracefully,
mm-hmm.
but it's like every time, we take one step forward, I feel like we take 5 steps backwards. And it's because, in your opinion, I'm not saying the things you want me to say. I'm not saying those things. And so within that, I apologize. Also within that, I guess my thought process is, when it comes to forgiving a person, you have to first start by forgiving yourself. And when you can forgive yourself, it's easy to forgive the other person.
Mm-hmm. Are you saying I should be forgiven?
No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I had to forgive me first.
Mm-hmm.
When you brought this to me, because I was spiraling.
Mm-hmm.
spiraling. And, I had to learn to forgive me first.
Mm-hmm.
And then within me learning to forgive me, and then I could move into another saddle. And that was to ask you for forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, I wonder, we always end up right back here.
Mm-hmm.
And, no, we're not yelling at one another, but there still isn't resolution there's still no resolution within you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the healing for you, it's not.
Do you think that's? I would disagree with that characterization. The healing is done for me. What I'm saying is that the healing for me is done. The healing with our relationship, from my perspective, comes from you not doubling back on apologies and going on kind of these sort of soliloquies about why you felt so affected, and I had to forgive myself, and I had to do. It's just really, this conversation, whenever it comes up, centers you. And I think that's fair for you to take up. And to be honest with you, I think this is where kind of a parent-child relationship dynamics comes in. I think it's fair for you to take up forgiving yourself and to make that space for yourself in like a therapy session, or like in conversations with your brothers and sisters or other peers of yours. I think when we enter into our parent-child dynamic, I personally feel like the conversation should center around apologeticness, and any feelings you have about needing to forgive yourself are something that you as the parent have to go kind of not interject into this dialogue. I think what it's my responsibility to do is to understand, and this is where the forgiveness part comes in from my perspective. I understand that parenting didn't come with a handbook. So because parenting didn't come with a handbook, I am able to move forward because I know you didn't do this maliciously. All I'm saying is that conversations around this, first of all, this wasn't even something that was supposed to go into a broader conversation about this. It kind of just did, because I think as much as you say it's a sensitive subject for me, I think it's really a sensitive subject for you. And I think because of that, when it just pops up as a topic of conversation, it leads to a broader conversation when it was kind of just supposed to be an example. But what I'm saying is that I'm healed and over it and I've forgiven you. But what I cannot accept, or what I don't accept in the dialogues that we have, and for me, what I would consider somewhat of a boundary when we discuss this, is centering you and your feelings when it comes to this situation that I was the child and this was wrong, for me.
I received that.
Somebody said, I'm so proud of your mom for vocalizing this. Words and emotions and communication are not easy. It's a muscle.
This is true.
Somebody said, mom wouldn't react like this if you were just having a normal argument with her and not talking down at her.
Absolutely.
What she's saying is her son basically talks to her the same way doctors tend to talk to us, like we went to medical school. It takes nothing to meet someone where they are and possibly bring them up along the way.
I concur.
The funny thing is the difference in education here is negligible at best. It's their perception of the education that is the problem.
Understandable.
Nah, he is aware of her insecurities. Being verbally superior is an area where he perceives himself to be more skilled than her, and so he uses verbal superiority to create distance and humiliate. The shit is whack.
I understand that.
You agree with this?
I do.
Okay. Bro, why are you trying to be smart in a convo with your mom? She is your mom. Americans are broken.
Mm-hmm. And so, with that being said, Dakota, what I've come to understand about you is that you don't accept that fop or that fairy.
What theory?
What the comment was just now.
About that Americans are broken?
Well, the whole statement.
Mm-hmm.
And I think more than anything, it's yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't, you're right. I don't agree with that statement, because from my perspective, and just like the conversation, for example, we just had about the coming out of my perspective about it, I think that it's okay for me to feel the way I feel and to not let my feelings of being wronged in that situation take the back burner because you're my mom.
Okay, and let me say this to you. So when people go to jail, they go to jail because they've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They come out of jail.
Mm-hmm.
So every time society looks and says, well, they did that wrong back then, so throw them back in jail. When do that cycle stop?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I wish I knew exactly what you were searching for, because every time I've tried to meet you where I thought you needed me to meet you at,
Mm-hmm.
and in my opinion, it's not good enough still.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like at every opportunity, you take the opportunity to, just shove it down my throat again. And I'm just saying to myself, okay, you can shove it down my throat, Dakota. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think about this as like I was saying before, I think this is that cycle. If somebody comes out of jail, they've served their time, but they're continue to be apologetic. They're not doubling back. Well, I still believe I should have done that. I think you are like the equivalent of somebody who metaphorically kind of came out of jail, which I don't think I had you in jail, but like theoretically came out of jail, but keep talking about that crime as if it was like this was exactly right, or I felt this way, that's why I did this. And nobody's family who's on the other side of that is going to feel like justice was fully served if that person comes out of jail still talking about how they were completely right for the thing that they did. And I think it's an example you use, not me, but I think that's that's the appropriate correlation of that example from my perspective.
So from my perspective, what I think is appropriate is this right here. Okay, we've discussed it.
Mm-hmm.
I've apologized. I've apologized and I've apologized and I will continue to apologize. Although you say you've forgiven me, in my heart of hearts, I feel like you haven't.
It's the double back.
Okay.
But I think there's something in that we can maybe keep talking about, because I think we're not getting anywhere.
No, I really don't want to keep talking about it because I want to be able to put that behind us. Mm-hmm. And then, you take the time to do what you need to do to heal with it and allow me the same time. And then once we're finished doing the work, let's come back together and discuss it. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll be able to see things different, and maybe you will too. Mm-hmm. But right now, we keep going down a rabbit hole.
I disagree with that, but I'll respectfully disagree with that, and we can kind of keep pushing. Somebody said, you are not equal to your mom, even when you possess mental capability beyond her. When you talk, don't talk to be right. Talk to be respectful. You can voice your opinion respectfully. Your disagreement concerns, heck, you can even teach someone something respectfully. Eloquence is not the same as respect when you speak. You probably often know better, and your mom is probably insecure. To fix that reality and build a damn bridge instead of taking it to the internet. None of these people have cooked food for you. Solve your reality instead of focusing on in theory. Shake my head.
So true.
Okay.
So true.
Well, those are our selected comments to read. Any other thoughts you want to mention here?
Not often. Excuse me.
You okay over there?
No, well, I'm sick.
I know,
I'm sick. No, I heard everything. I heard everything you had to say. And maybe one day, maybe just one day. No, not maybe. I believe one day, this too shall pass.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.